The hippo, usually a symbol of power and dominance, bellowed in agony. Its cries echoed through the marshes, scattering birds and startling nearby antelopes. The once placid waters churned with the desperate thrashing of the animal, sending waves crashing to the banks. Each attempt to submerge itself was futile. The lizards, strong and determined, clung tighter, digging into the hippo's skin. News of the chaos reached a rescue team stationed near the reserve. With urgency, the team rushed to the scene, carrying tranquilizer rifles, ropes, and protective gear. When they arrived, the sight before them was heartbreaking. The hippo's massive body bore dozens of bleeding wounds, and exhaustion was clear in its sunken eyes. Still, it tried to fight, unwilling to surrender to its tormentors. The rescuers acted quickly. Two of them distracted the lizards by tossing bait into the water, while others carefully moved in with long poles to pry the attackers away. The operation was perilous. The lizards snapped aggressively, and the hippo's unpredictable thrashing threatened to overturn the boats. Yet, inch by inch, the team managed to pull the lizards off. Once the hippo was clear, a tranquilizer dart was carefully administered, calming the distressed giant. It sank gently into the shallow water, finally still. The rescuers worked tirelessly, cleaning the wounds, applying medicine, and stitching deeper gashes. Hours passed under the blazing sun, but their determination never faltered. By nightfall, the hippo was resting safely under watch, its breaths deep and steady. The rescuers knew the road to recovery would be long, but the worst was over. What mattered most was that they had given this majestic creature a second chance to live freely in its wild home. The lead rescuer, Drive, Akin, a wildlife veterinarian with years of field experience, crouched beside the hippo. Sweat streamed down his face as he carefully examined the deep punctures left behind by the lizards. Some wounds were shallow, but others had torn into the thick hide, leaving raw tissue exposed. He shook his head grimly. "This animal fought hard," he said to his team, "but if we don't act fast, the blood loss and infection will finish what the lizards started." With quick precision, the team set up a makeshift treatment camp. Lanterns flickered as night crept in, illuminating their frantic work. One rescuer sterilized medical instruments, another mixed antibiotics into syringes, while others held buckets of clean river water to wash the wounds. The hippo, though sedated, occasionally twitched, its massive frame a reminder of the dangerous power lying just beneath the surface. The first hours of treatment were tense. The rescuers cleaned each wound, flushing out dirt, parasites, and fragments of lizard teeth that had broken off during the attack. Some wounds required stitching, a painstaking process made harder by the thickness of the hippo's hide. Every cut of the needle was a challenge, but Drive, Akin's steady hands guided the work without faltering. By midnight, the worst of the bleeding was controlled, but a new challenge emerged: dehydration. The hippo had lost too much fluid during the struggle. The team rigged up a portable IV line, carefully inserting it into a vein along the hippo's massive leg. The drip started slowly, and within minutes, the steady rhythm of hydration gave the team a small sigh of relief. Still, the jungle never slept. Around them, the night echoed with the sounds of predators. Hyenas laughed in the distance, drawn by the scent of blood. Crocodiles lingered near the water, their glowing eyes reflecting the lantern light. The rescuers worked in shifts, keeping guard while others tended to the hippo. For them, failure was not an option. Hours passed. As dawn painted the sky in shades of pink and gold, the hippo stirred weakly. The tranquilizer was wearing off, and the team watched carefully as its eyes fluttered open. Groggy but alive, the giant attempted to lift its head. A soft cheer broke out among the rescuers. The fight was far from over, but this was a sign of resilience. The next few days were dedicated to recovery. The hippo was kept under close observation in a secured section of the riverbank, protected by barriers made of strong nets and ropes. Each day, the rescuers cleaned the wounds again, applied fresh medicinal paste, and injected antibiotics to prevent infection. The hippo's appetite was slow to return, but soon it began nibbling on reeds and aquatic plants provided by the team. One of the youngest rescuers, a woman named Layla, often sat by the water's edge, softly speaking to the hippo while feeding it handfuls of fresh greens. "You're a warrior," she whispered, stroking its thick skin. "You're not going to give up now." Surprisingly, the hippo seemed to respond to her calm presence, remaining still during treatments whenever she was nearby. But danger still loomed. On the fourth night, as the moon hung low, a sudden rustling in the undergrowth alerted the team. The same species of lizards that had attacked the hippo earlier were back, dozens of them, creeping toward the camp, their eyes glinting with hunger. The rescuers scrambled, banging metal pans and flashing lights to scare them off. Some lizards hissed and lunged, but finally, they slithered back into the shadows. The message was clear: nature rarely gave up easily. Despite these threats, the hippo's strength gradually returned. Its wounds began to close, leaving scars across its body, visible signs of the battle it had endured. The team measured its breathing daily, noting improvements, and its appetite grew steadily. Soon, it was eating enough to show signs of regaining energy. On the 12th day, the team decided to test the hippo's ability to move. With barriers removed, they watched anxiously as it struggled to its feet. At first, its legs trembled, and it collapsed back into the mud. But with a deep bellow, the hippo tried again, this time managing to stand, though unsteady. Each step forward was celebrated by the rescuers like a victory. By the 15th day, the hippo's recovery was almost complete. Its eyes were bright again, its body firm with strength. It began spending more time in the water, swimming short distances under the team's supervision. Layla, who had grown attached to the animal, shed tears as she realized the day of release was approaching. Finally, the morning came. The sun rose over the river, shimmering across the water. The barriers were removed, and the team stood silently, watching as the hippopotamus stepped into the river once more. It paused, turning its head as if to acknowledge its human guardians, then slowly sank beneath the surface. Moments later, it surfaced farther away, snorting loudly before disappearing into the wild currents it called home. The rescuers stood quietly, their hearts filled with both pride and sorrow. They had fought against impossible odds, risked their lives, and worked tirelessly to save a creature that had once been on the brink of death. For them, this was more than just a rescue, it was a reminder of the fragile bond between humans and the wild. As the team packed their gear, Akin looked over the river and spoke softly, "We don't save animals just to heal their wounds. We save them because every life carries meaning, because the wild itself depends on these giants to survive." And with that, the rescue mission came to an end. The river returned to its timeless rhythm, and somewhere within its depths, the hippopotamus swam freely once again, carrying the scars of its battle but also the strength of its survival.